on my front. Hello and welcome to a picture entitled Prototype with Prettier Atmosphere. So this is a thing that I started working on. Hold on, let me find the right thing. I need to click this, and then I can click this and I can show you it. This is Sputnik. It is entirely, it is copied. It is copied from an idea. What is it? Sputnik Panic, which I will show you real quick. This is what it's inspired by. This may or may not have music. Oh, okay. I'll just mute that real fast, and hopefully I can show you that. Maybe it'll give the idea. You have a button, you push it, and then you kind of let it go and push again a little bit, and then you try to get something into orbit, and then it automatically takes to the next control, and you try to get the next one, and so on and so forth. Except in mine, you have two buttons to control, so you can decide when you want to switch. And so you can see right now, I just have a little orange dots, and you can see that the orbit right now goes into the atmosphere. I haven't coded in atmospheric, slowing you down yet, so it will not crash, but as you can see, I can make another one show up and get it going, and that one's on a terrible path, and they do not collide with each other yet. Also, you can see it reacts similar to Sputnik Panic in that if you don't quite get out of the atmosphere, you can actually just crash on the planet, or you could even hop around in a ridiculous sort of fashion like I just did. And that one's a bad orbit. There we go. So you can see there's already something here that is fun. And obviously I'm going to want to add other stuff. Essentially, I want to add... Oops, I accidentally added acceleration to one. I did not mean to, so it went off into space forever. But essentially right now my goal is to make it look prettier, obviously. To make it so that if you collide at a certain velocity, your ship will be destroyed. Maybe add some sound effects, make it look prettier, essentially, make it look a little bit better. And then add some options. So obviously... the main reason I made it was actually because I like Sputnik Panic, but oh my god, look at the orbit I got that one in. Obviously this wouldn't work if I had atmospheric drag, but holy crap. Yeah, I want to have Sputnik Panic, but more forgiving, because Sputnik Panic is really unforgiving. And also I want it to allow you to tweak your orbits how you want, because Sputnik Panic, it'll be like, oh, you're in an orbit, you've gotten, basically it assumes that if you've gone long enough without hitting the button, that you're in orbit, and automatically kicks you to the next one. I really did not like that, because I wanted to fine-tune my orbits, and it wouldn't let me. Of course, this has an extremely limited control scheme of 2 buttons, so it's, oops, I just launched something somewhere because I wasn't paying attention. I hit the wrong button. But, obviously, it's still very limited, but you at least have the ability to try to fine-tune things a little bit if you want. Obviously, there's no collisions right now either. I would want to make it basically optional to whether you're allowed to switch between vessels, whether vessels have collisions, Basically, I want to add all these things to it and then make all these things optional so that you can, determine whether you want things the way you want them or not, and, deal with it your own way. So you can play it your own way, and as you can see right now, I'm just kind of enjoying it while I'm talking about it. So you can see it's already something that's fun to play. It's made in the Love engine, and let's go ahead and take a look at the source code, which is all in one file currently. Come on, load it up. There we go. And you can see it is 110 lines of code, so not that much. I just set a couple locals at the top for Love graphics and keyboard. I have the planetary mass, planetary radius, planetary atmosphere, and the gravitational constant, which I'm just using 1, which means that it doesn't really matter. I could just get rid of it. But actually, I'm going to go ahead and do that, because it's just not necessary for the simulation. And one thing I'm doing with this simulation is taking out anything that's not necessary, because it's just not necessary. I don't think I was using that anywhere else. Yeah, it was just for gravity. Alright, so... we have a little ship constructor that just constructs a ship at that particular point on the planet's surface, so minus p radius on the y direction, x0, 0 velocity, and the heading, it is pointing up, and then it temporarily has a radius set to 5 because we're drawing them as circles right now. Later on they would actually have their own little design. There's an array that's holding the ships, the current ship is created, and Basically, current ship is always the ship that you're piloting. Time and tick are used for making everything happen at 30 frames per second. So the 1/30th here, that's 1/30th of a second. Gravity A would be the ship. We calculate the distance squared. We take the planet's mass, divide it by the distance squared, and then we apply that force based on cosine and sine, you know, the things math. I'm not going to bother explaining this really because it's mainly because it's not correct. Basically, this is simplified because we're only doing gravity in one direction between the bodies. If you were to actually properly calculate gravity, you'd have a different thing happening here. And I actually have, if I go, I'm going to go over here real quick and show you that I do have the proper version. Oops, let's go to Browse Files, go into Source, Main, and if you look here, this gravity function looks quite a bit different, and this is a proper gravity function. So you can see there's a lot more going on in here. And I would explain that another time if I wanted to, but I don't right now, so whatever. Collide just says, are you inside the planet radius? Then we stop the acceleration to do crash or live based on velocity impact, like I was saying. Then we need to move you to the surface and stay on the surface, so we find out which direction you need to be moved by. The planetary radius minus the distance that you're at is how far you need to go to be at the surface, so it just places you at the surface. Let's see, this updates the angle relative to the planet. Oh yes, so basically if you're outside the atmosphere, then the angle to the planet plus 90 degrees equals where you're facing, which is exactly perpendicular to the planet. Exactly what you want to go into orbit. Excuse me, I had a bit of a hiccup there. Else we calculate this basically percentage that you're in the atmosphere. And so we multiply the 90 degrees by the percent of the atmosphere. So if you're halfway through the atmosphere, you're at a 45-degree angle. If you're almost all the way at, then you're almost at a 90-degree angle. If you're very low in the atmosphere, or if you're at 0, then you're at pointing straight up. The update function, this is not the update function, this is my update function. It goes through all the ships, it gives them gravity, it applies their velocity. It has them check for collisions. It corrects their angle. Here is where I would add in drag calculations, which I haven't done yet. Then we check if the player is pressing Z. There's this thing that I need to do. I want to make the velocity that you apply vary based on your height, so that you can make finer adjustments when you're higher up. And I tried a basic method with this, and it didn't work out properly. Linear leads to fall off of thrust far too quickly. That's what I need to fix. Right now it's just hard-coded to 20. And so you can see this is, again, the similar kind of thing, cosines and sines, to figure out how to apply things, components. It's trig! It's trig! I actually should, at some point, just explain the basics of what this stuff is with the trig, with the atans and the square roots and the cosines and sines, because if you don't know that, then obviously this looks kind of crazy, and it's something that's really useful to know. And then, of course, here we have the actual love update function, which just goes, time gets increased by the delta time, which is just how much time has passed. And then if the time is above how much time we want each tick to be, remember this was set to 1/30th way back up here, then we, of course, will subtract that tick time from the time, and we'll call our own little update function. That way it stays working. The draw function, first we translate to the 0 being at the middle of the screen, because this just makes everything easier. Then we set the color that I'm going to use for the ships, which is just a temporary little thing, because like I said, later on this would actually be replaced with something that's drawing an actual like sprite. And I would love to know how to calculate their orbits. That's a problem I've been working on for a long time. I will hopefully figure it out someday, but until then, we draw a little circle where they are. And then we come down here, we make the planet itself. This to-do note needs to be removed because I have now improved the atmosphere. The rest of all of these are the atmosphere. So it's rendered basically the same color at 3 different transparency levels and at 30%, 60%, and 90% of the height of the atmosphere. And it makes that little like fade effect that I like so much. Yes, I like it very much. And then we have this little quick thing, so I can hit escape to escape. And if you hit X, it makes a new ship and then puts that in the ships. So you can fly your new ship. And yeah, that's all it is. And it was 110 lines when I started, and now it's 109 because I removed a comment. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this quick look at it or whatever, and hopefully I work on it more. I tend to do a lot of these quick little things and then don't go much further. You know, someday I'll be better about it, but for now,